We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies. This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Welcome, baseball coaches. Welcome, 80-20 Baseball community. Fired up to be here this week. Our weekly get-together here, coming out every Tuesday with a new episode. Always excited to be here with all of you. The numbers continue to go up more than ever. We've been doing this over 3 years now, and the numbers continue to go up. The listener numbers, that is, and it just fires me up and motivates me. Some of the emails I'm getting just last week, a few awesome emails from coaches that are digging the show. Always great to hear. Send me your feedback. Send me your thoughts. Send me your success stories. Coach Bo at 8020baseball.com. Coach Bo, 8020baseball.com. Or you can go to the website, 8020baseball.com, and go to the contact page and send it over from there. Before we dive in to this week's episode, I want to say this quick intro message. This is an ongoing podcast, the 80-20 Baseball Podcast, the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass, because our coaching game, our coaching skills, and our coaching game is ongoing, and it takes years and years to become a really good and well-rounded coach, unless you are shown a much shorter path to being a good and well-rounded coach, or even a great coach. But even then, it takes a consistent, and in this case, 30 minutes-ish each week to continue building your paradigm, your toolbox, your coaching skill set into that of a good to great coach. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Most of you are aware of that famous book that came out years and years ago. I swear by that book. I think that book is a manual for life in a lot of ways, and I really think a version of that, there is a teen version, but a version of that, even better than the teen version that's out there, should be given and put into place as curriculum, as a textbook for all kids, all high schoolers, junior high kids. And the 7th habit in that book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is sharpening the saw. Many of you are coming here to get the toolbox built up. You're getting the paradigm built up. But if you've been here for the last 169 episodes, now you're sharpening that saw, and it's an ongoing thing. So it's great to have you all here. This week's episode, we're going to talk about how hockey can teach us to be better baseball coaches and to create a better baseball environment. Also, I'm going to share a wise coaching quote from the Godfather of the mental game. A coaching quote from the Godfather of the mental game, and we're going to talk briefly on how we can use that to be better coaches. And I'm going to share with you an interesting reaction from some Georgia football players when I asked them, hours after they demolished TCU for the college football championship, I asked them what they thought of their coach, Kirby Smart. And I was in the lobby of their hotel in downtown LA, or I should say LA Live area, but near there. And I sat down with some of the players and asked them just flat out what they thought or what their take on Kirby Smart was. And I wanted to learn about what they thought of Coach Smart, because Coach Smart has had a lot of success with kids that are 18, 19, 20, not a whole lot older and a whole lot different in terms of how you're coming about and working with them and how we're talking to them than those of a 12U, 11U. Yeah, maybe different than a 7, 8U a little bit, but I think what I'm going to share with you about what they said is going to be able to help guide us and be better coaches. Last week's episode, I shared out an eye and vision tip. So go back if you didn't hear that, an eye/vision tip. Also shared out King Griffey's hitting goal. Top 5 coaching tweets of the month came out last month. There was some really good coaching tweets. Those aren't my tweets. Those are tweets from some of the great minds out there, the great coaching minds that I curate and I bring here. Top 5 coaching tweets of the month last week. So go check that out. Part 1, hockey culture. We need more of it in baseball and society. After that aforementioned Georgia football game that I went to, the Georgia TCU national title game, went with my best friend to that game a month or so ago. I mentioned that. And after the game was over, there was the LA Kings Oilers game, and we knew we could get over to that game and watch the second half of that game. So we head over to the Staples Center and we watch the second half of that game. And I'll tell you what, some hockey culture, we need more of that hockey mindset in baseball. And I'm not saying the fighting part, there were a couple fights. course, this is NHL and not kid sports. We don't need that. But the hockey culture, the toughness, and I think back, I grew up watching a lot of hockey games, matches, and I was always so impressed by their toughness. Not the fighting, but more so, I was impressed by the toughness of the players to take a hit and hop up, to take a shot and hop up, and not just hop up or not just get back up, but to not really say anything or make a big deal out of it. They didn't sit there and milk it. The opposite of that, the complete opposite reaction in sports that is really hard for me to watch, and probably most of you, is soccer. And soccer over the last 15 years has become flop central. In fact, the NBA was the kind of the flop originator in a lot of ways. The NBA, the Vlade Divac, the Vlade flop came about. A lot of NBA guys started flopping because that started getting called. A lot of charge calls back in the late 90s, definitely in the 2000s. And soccer's taken that to a whole nother level. Hockey is the complete opposite. If you flop in hockey, not only are the refs going to look at you and just say, hey, no can do, or what are you doing? You look like a fool. Your own teammates are going to look at you. And the reason they do is because the culture of hockey is toughness. It's a culture of toughness. It's a culture of not whining, not complaining. It's a culture of getting a little hurt and just keep on skating. So this toughness is, to me, valuable for life. Most of our kids were using youth baseball as a place to have a lot of fun within the game of baseball, have a lot of fun playing the game of baseball while also getting ready for life. It's a fun training ground for life. And if they're lucky enough to get a scholarship or very fortunate enough to go pro, okay, that's icing on the cake. But to have a lot of fun for a lot of years in youth baseball and then use that as a training ground while having fun to get ready and be a better adult, a better young adult, that's what it's all about. And hockey, that culture, and some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, that's a different culture. And it's a culture of toughness, and it's not a culture of suppressing things and hiding your feelings necessarily, being overly manly. So it's the opposite of narcissism, and we see a lot of narcissism in our society, and this is something we have to work on with our kids. You might be saying, Coach Bo, I thought this was a youth baseball podcast. Why are we talking about narcissism? Narcissism is rampant in our world, and it's definitely rampant within our youth. They're getting called, a lot of them are getting cultivated. They're hearing these messages. It's about them. It's about them. It's about you. It's about you. Yeah, sure. It is a little bit about each one of us, but it's about everybody. And it's not just about us. Yeah, it's a little bit about us, but not all about us. And I think that's a message we need to cultivate as coaches, and a message that we need to share with our players that's not just about them. And I think this message can and should be discussed with our players. It should be given out. It should be conveyed early on. And it should just be flat out, like, hey, this is not about you. It's about all of us. Now, each one of you is just as valuable and just as important as the next player. You're all equally valuable as human beings, as players, as people here, and you each have an equal value to the world, but you don't have more value than anybody else, and you don't have less. You have equal value in terms of being a human being and equal respect. And I think it's important that we share this message with our players, that they are no more valuable than any other player, but they're not less valuable. And I think hockey does a really good job of this. You don't see it a lot. You don't see the narcissistic player in hockey. It's very humble. They're tough. They get banged up. They get back up and go. Now you say, Coach Bo, how else can I use hockey to help? Many of you live near hockey games or hockey. You can go watch at least a minor league. I know here in Boise, they got the Steelheads, and that's really good hockey. Is it NHL top level? No. But when you're taking an 8, 9, 10U, they're going to have a lot of fun, and probably even more fun, because just like minor league baseball can be more fun, as many for young kids, than the major league level, same with hockey. Go to a local hockey game and watch and sit. Try to get decent seats and point out the toughness, point out the culture. See if you can get there a little early. Tell your guys, tell your kid, tell your players, if you take your team, tell them to watch how they respond, how they work together, the synergy, but also that toughness. So I think we could borrow from hockey. I think hockey is probably the team sport that's got the culture thing dialed in the most for getting young people ready for life. I'm going to share out another one next week that I recommend every kid get involved with, or at least get a taste of. And I'm going to share that out next week. And this is something that's not technically, or it's not referred to or always looked at as a sport, but it's definitely something that has all those characteristics. So make sure you're here next week. I'll share that tip out, that recommendation out for all kids to get involved with. But if they don't play hockey, I get it. They don't have the access to hockey, or they don't really want to play hockey. I do think you should take a youth baseball team to a hockey game. Take them to a hockey game as a team building thing, but also as a, hey, watch how tough these players are. Watch how they react to things, a hit. Watch how they react to getting hit by the puck. And I can't tell you, there must have been 3 or 4 games when I was younger, and the player, or I should say the players, would get drilled in the face by the puck or a stick, and they would have pretty bad lacerations. They'd have pretty bad cuts on their face and or their mouth. And they would go to the locker room and then come back with stitches and continue playing the game. They would continue playing that same very game. They would go get stitches and come back. And many of you know this, but in hockey, if you don't come back out and play, unless it's a severe broken bone or some serious knee injury or something where you just can't physically move, if you don't come back out, the culture and the stigma that comes with that, it says everything about the culture of hockey. Now, I'm not saying kids should play seriously hurt and things like that. If it's a serious injury, it's a serious injury. But that toughness, I think, could help a lot more than it could hurt. And I'll leave it at that. Moving up to the quote of the week, the coaching quote of the week. This comes from the godfather of the mental game of baseball, Ken Ravizza, considered by many to be the godfather, the forefather of the mental game of baseball. I was fortunate to be under his tutelage for 5 years. My high school coach, Mike Curran, is a Hall of Fame high school coach, was ahead of the game when it came to implementing the mental game, and he brought Dr. Ken Ravizza in to work with us in high school. Thankfully, he was a local coach, a local professor at Cal State Fullerton, and I was just down the street from there. He came in, he talked to us as high schoolers, but even before that, my parents bought his book for me, his book, Heads Up Baseball, the original one, when it first came out in the 90s. And so I was well versed in that. And then when I got to Long Beach State, I spent 4 years there. And every single year, Dr. Ravizza came to our practices, came to the school, and we would do sessions with him. And it was a big deal. Coach Dave Snow and Mike Weathers were the coaches at Long Beach when I was there, the head coaches, and they were big on Ken Ravizza. Now, I should say, Ken Ravizza, Dr. Ravizza, what he shared out was more useful and has been more useful after my playing career finished. It's been more useful as an adult, as I've gotten older. That's how great this stuff is. So not only was it useful when I played, but it is 10x, 20x more useful when you're older, because you start to use it more, you start to see the value of it more and more, and you start to see how spot on Dr. Ken Ravizza, the godfather of the mental game, was. He passed away a few years back, and it was really sad. I know it was a big deal when he did pass. With that said, his message has spread. His message is out there. Most of the mental game coaches use a lot, or at least some of what he taught. And here's his quote, the coaching quote of the week. Quote, "The game is simple. People are complicated. Have a plan, relax, see the ball, and trust your muscles." End quote. The game is simple. People are complicated. Have a plan, relax, see the ball, and trust your muscles. End quote. I really think we want to hone in on this first part. We want to zero in on this first part. The game is simple, people are complicated. And I think it's very important that we hear this message, and we can't hear it enough. I don't think we can. The game of baseball, or the coaches within the baseball community, and I think this is an issue a lot of places. They try to sound sophisticated. They try to use big words. They try to use, let's say, acronyms, or they try to use lingo that makes them come across as sophisticated and advanced and super knowledgeable. But at the end of the day, almost always what it's doing is complicating the message. It's making things more complicated. It's getting players further away from what they need to know and further away from being able to connect the dots and then use that action. It's getting further away from simplicity inherently. And our players need simplicity. They need simplicity so they can play fast, smooth, and confident. So I think Ken Ravizza hits on something really big. And have a plan, relax, see the ball, trust your muscles. I think trusting and seeing the ball and trusting your muscles is about having a plan that's simple. And as coaches, we must share a simple plan with our players. Even high-level players, in my opinion, need a simpler plan. It's not about processing. It's not about understanding it. It's about actually understanding it and then using it within split second, hundredths of a second. Baseball happens quick. Complicating things, it's not a great strategy, and we need to simplify things. So let's listen to Ken Ravizza when he says the game is simple, but people are complicated. Coaches make it more complicated. Let's have a simple plan, breathe, see the ball, trust your process, trust the muscles. I'll leave it at that. Coaching quote of the week from the late, great Dr. Ken Ravizza. All right, part 2. Georgia football had one of the most dominant years. They demolished Texas Christian University, and I had really good seats. I was actually field level at the game and got a pretty good visual of what was going on. And then after the game, we went to the aforementioned LA Kings game. But after the LA Kings Oilers game, we actually came out of the game, got some food, and then we came out of the yard house, and right across the street was the hotel that Georgia was staying at. So we just walked right in and sat down at the lobby, and it was really empty. The lobby was empty except for some players, probably some family members, and that was about it. So we sat down on the couch and started talking to a few of the players, and I asked them, I said, hey, Coach Smart, Kirby Smart, he's had a lot of success. Obviously, most people know he came from Nick Saban. I've talked about Nick Saban being one of the best coaches out there. I've talked about the one or two things I don't agree with, but I've definitely shared out about the dozen things he does better than almost every coach out there. And Kirby Smart was under his tutelage and worked as the defensive coordinator for Alabama for many years with Nick Saban. And now Kirby Smart's the Georgia head coach, of course. And I asked these players, I said, how is it playing for Coach Smart? What makes him such a great coach? And they said, he's just not easy on the players. He's very demanding. I just flat out said, is he nice? And they all simultaneously busted up laughing. There was 3 players right there, and they all just started, like they literally were laughing, and it wasn't synchronized by any means. It was just boom. Their reaction said everything. The reaction was, no, it's not easy. He's not easy. He's very demanding. But if you see him with his players and you watch him up close, you can see that he cares on his players. And I asked them that. I said, hey, guys, does he care about his players? Does he care about each of you? And they said, yes, absolutely. He cares about us as people. This is what they said to me, these players. They said, Coach Smart cares about us, but he's not easy to play for. He's very demanding. We talk about that here on 80-20 a lot. And I know college football is different than youth baseball in some ways, but it's very similar in a lot of ways. And that is, you need to care about your players. You need to praise and care about your players like Coach Smart does, like Kirby Smart does. But you also have to have high expectations, because I'm sorry to say this to some of you that haven't picked up on this, but the school system, and I've been in the school system for 17 years as a teacher in 3 different states, in 4 different districts. It's not demanding from our kids as much as I think it should be. And the culture is coddling too much. It's coddling too much. And I think the praise and the caring is there. I think the praise and the caring, the love for kids is there in the education world. And of course, my sample size is very small, but I try to stay in touch. I talk to teachers from across the country with my job. I work with teachers that I talk to them from all 50 states. And I think the message and the caring for kids, I should say the caring and the love for kids is there, but I think the education system, it's over coddling. Our kids already get enough coddling at school, but life is not going to coddle them. So why not use something fun like baseball or youth sports as a way to have a lot of fun, but also have high expectations and demand kids step up and follow the rules and hustle, not be narcissists like we talked before. It's not about them. Be good teammates. Don't complain. Play hard. Hop up if they fall. I think it's important. And that's why I hit on it earlier when I was talking about hockey. They're not getting this a lot from the school system. And that's not a knock on the teachers. I've been a teacher. I get it. You know, I even supervise teachers right now. And I see a lot of different classes being taught by different teachers. They care about the kids. The teachers care about the kids for the most part. There's a lot of love for the kids, but they're a little easy. I think we go too far to them. I tell teachers right now, a lot of teachers are going 90% of the way to the kid. I'm like, well, you got to meet us in the middle, because life is not going to go all the way to them and just come to their doorstep and hand them a nice life. They got to go get it. And it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be easy. So I think as coaches, we can learn from Coach Smart in that we can both praise and love on our players, give them genuine compliments, look for the good while simultaneously having high expectations that they hustle, that they're coachable, that they're good teammates, that they don't disrespect anybody, and they do what they're asked. What I thought was most interesting about the reaction was when I asked, is he easy to play for? And they just simultaneously, all three of them just started busting up. No, he's not at all. But they said he cared about him, but he's not easy to play for. And when they say easy, is he's tough on them. He demands a lot because he knows that's what it takes to win, but he also, hey, that's what life's going to take. Life's not easy. Life is very demanding, very challenging. And I think if we fill our role as coaches, we can win a lot of games, develop a lot of baseball skills, but also, more importantly, at the same time, prepare our kids to dominate life as best as possible. All right, got fired up. This episode was something I was looking forward to for the last week. I always love being here. I love seeing the listener numbers going up. Reach out, share out your story with me. Reach out, say what's up. Coach Bo, 8020baseball.com, the drill design guide. I see a lot of people going over and getting the drill design guide. It's on the website. You just go there, boom. You can just put your email. It'll send right over to you. You'll get it instantaneously or within a few seconds. It's a 21-page PDF drill design guide. Get that. You can follow myself. You can follow me on Twitter, 8020_baseball, 8020_baseball. Support the podcast. You can leave a review, leave a rating or a review. That would be awesome. Just take 2 or 3 minutes and just leave a rating or review. If you've been getting a lot of stuff out of this, just go on there, leave a rating, a review. That helps the podcast move up. Also, I'm working on that coaching course. It's coming along. But again, I don't want to put out anything that's not quality. So it's coming along. I'll let you know first and foremost here when that is ready for you all. But the priority right now is to make sure I keep putting out this good quality podcast, or at least my best effort in the podcast weekly. And I'm working on that coaching course. Excited. I even have an option now for a little community that's going to be built in for the people that get the course. It's going to be a coaching community built in. So it's really cool. I'm looking forward to that being launched. I'll let you know here when it is. And until next week, take care of yourself, your health, your families, or your close friends, and take this information out there. Get it ready to take out there. Or if you're already starting to coach and baseball is starting to go, the season's starting to go, if you're in go mode already, take it out there and put it into action. This stuff's all going to work. It's going to work, but you got to go out there and try it. Take the principles we're talking about here, the fundamental things that we're discussing here, and take these out and then mesh it with who you are as a person. And you're going to start getting a lot more confidence. You should already be going out there more confident listening to this podcast. That's a huge thing, going out to the field with confidence. That is huge. I'll tell you what, when I finally got that, I felt where my knowledge and my plan going out to the field was at a point where I knew what I was using was going to work. Man, that's a good feeling. That is a really good feeling. Then I feel like your growth can just be exponential after that, because then you can just take that run, sprint with it, because there's no hesitation. What you're using is going to work, and it doesn't mean you're not growing and learning and adjusting and tinkering. Of course we are. But put this into play, take it out to the field, use it, and until next week, adios.
This has been the 80/20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.